Welcome to the She Births Show, a place to inspire your birth, evolve your parenting, and help you live a life you love. I'm Nadine Richardson, your host and creator of the scientifically verified birth education program, She Births. I'm also a mother, yoga teacher, doula, author, and speaker. At She Births, we have supported thousands of families around the world for over 13 years with our unique program, and our vision is to make birth better for every family around the world so that everyone experiences a beautiful birth no matter what unfolds. Not only do we help people have beautiful births, but we also give them the skills and the philosophy to enjoy pregnancy and make parenting easier. As well as our world-class birth ed, taken either face-to-face or online in our app, we also have a free pregnancy guide designed to help you feel calm, connected, and inspired as you and your baby grow. We have a doula matching service, the perfect way to ensure you and your partner are completely supported throughout the whole journey. And we have our Soul Mama Circles, which are the perfect postpartum network to help optimize your mindset and design your life in parenthood. Remember, if you like what you hear today, subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. If you're a parent, about to be one, fellow health professional, join us now for an inspirational deep dive into topics with experts around the globe. We hope you enjoy this special episode. Hi and welcome to the She Births Show. Today I chat with Naomi Chrisoulakis, a mum of two and postnatal doula who lives in the Illawarra region. She, like us at She Births, believes that every woman deserves a postpartum period that's restful, rejuvenating, and respectful. If we look around the world across all ancient traditions, we see that women after birth are encouraged to rest, to eat well, and to focus on bonding with their baby. In China, female relatives will cook up storms as women observe a golden month. In India, women are massaged daily and eat according to Ayurvedic traditions as part of the 40 days for 40 years health and immunity philosophy. In our chat today with Naomi, I talk about what postpartum care looks like in our culture and how broken we can all feel at times during this very vulnerable stage. We talk about some of the key factors that you can take away to help you prepare for a truly great postpartum. We discuss the discomforts of change at this time, our inner blocks, our inner resistances, and allowing our partners in, for example. Functional food, as well as the importance of birth processing. Just because you've given birth does not mean you instantly become a mother. Always key to a good postpartum in all traditions is social support, where the new mum feels cared for deeply. It's really about mothering the new mother and treating her as gently as we do the beautiful newborn. This is such a far cry away from the isolation, anxiety, and pressure we feel in our modern world. During the recent floods surrounding my beautiful home in Maynam, which is safe and sound, luckily, I also have felt very called, more than ever, to help and oversee the support that women receive during this family time, during this climate crisis time, as well as during the perinatal period. You know, when we look at the recent research reports on postnatal depression, it's really disturbing how many women are not okay. Even in times of national crisis, our families, our mothers are left feeling very alone and unsupported. So She Births is now working with Pregnancy, Birth and Beyond and the Returning here on the Northern Rivers. Check out our collaborations to support families with continuity of care, with longevity of care for all family needs. I will be creating Soul Mama Circles up here for families as well. And we have also decided to expand our doula service to include not birth only, but postpartum planning and care sessions. As this is a new service, we're offering just a handful of sessions each month with our beautiful in-house postpartum specialist. She's well versed in she births, having done it twice, and in our guiding principles, and she also leads the Matrescence program that I developed for our Soul Mama circles. So if you're interested, make sure that you register to choose to be part of our postpartum planning and care sessions with our wonderful in-house she birth specialist. Our doulas will give you the care and the wisdom that you need to create a beautiful, thriving postpartum as you journey through matrescence. Planning for your postpartum, as well as birth, is one of the most meaningful ways you can take care of yourself and your family in this lifetime. Just join the waitlist and register your interest at shebirths.com/pp. shebirths.com/pp. Without further ado, I hope you enjoy my conversation today with the beautiful Naomi. Naomi, welcome to the She Births Show. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Nadine. It is such an honour to be on the podcast, which I love so much.
Oh, vice versa. We love your podcast as well. I understand you've been packing boxes of your amazing cocoon cookie mix.
Yes, I have. It's been a pretty intense 24 hours. I launched my cookie mix. It's been 2 years in the making, and I sold out in 12 hours, which was amazing.
Wow.
And now I have to deal with Excel spreadsheets and packing boxes and all the things that are not as exciting as launching the product and watching the orders roll in. So I am in that kind of mode, and so I'm very grateful to have an opportunity to put my feet up for a second and have a nice conversation and stop thinking about Australia Post labels and all of those really boring.
And for everybody out there, I just have to say that Naomi's lactation cookies are my favourite. Whenever I've picked them up for my mummies, I'll always scoff at half of them in the car, and they're really so delicious. The chocolate chips in there without being too sugary, and like a lot of cookies, they can be really sort of yeasty and boring as well. Yours are just the perfect balance. Sorry, you're going to have more orders.
No, that means a lot because I really put so much into the cookies, and I'm not a food snob in a fine dining sense, but I really care about the ingredients. I will only use this very particular 70% dark chocolate organic Peruvian chocolate chip because that is my favorite one, and I will not compromise. So it means a lot when people notice that. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Well, what can we tell people about you? Let's maybe tell us who's in your family and where you live and your business, what you do and how you got there.
Yeah, sure. So I have 2 little kids. I have a 5-year-old who's starting school next year, which is crazy, and a 15-month-old. And we just moved out of Sydney a few months ago down the coast near Wollongong for a bit of a sea change. And that's a whole other thing.
Are you loving it?
Yeah, we are. It feels like it's been a long time coming, and then it all happened very quickly. We moved down 3 days before lockdown, which was strange timing, but we've really found that we've at least kind of got our house the way that we wanted to, which is really important to me. I'm such a homebody. But we love it. It's so great. So we're living here now, and I'm just sort of coming back into my postpartum doula role after some time off after the birth of my son, and I am looking after people in their home again. So that kind of looks like me coming over for a few hours once a week, bringing postpartum specific food, massaging people, sending them off for a rest, putting them in a bath, looking after the baby, folding laundry, whatever they need to do to get the rest that they need, which sometimes is having a big download and a big cry and, all of that stuff. So I did some sort of virtual work during COVID, but I'm really excited to head back into people's houses and do that kind of one-on-one in-person work again. And I have a podcast, and which is called Tales from the Fourth Trimester, which you've been on, where I talk to women about their postpartum experiences as well as experts for their wisdom. And what else do? I also write. My background is in journalism. I still do a bit of that. I just have a million different things going on, which sometimes feels a bit insane, but here we are.
Perfect. And I mean, and you came to this postpartum doula work how many years ago? And
well, I mean, it really, my daughter's 5, and it was during my postpartum with her that I got the absolute shock of my life and realized how we are just not talking about postpartum enough, and we're not preparing people enough for postpartum. And it was a few months down the line with her when I started reading the First 40 Days cookbook that I realized how our culture is really letting families down, and we are the only culture really who's doing this. There are so many other cultures around the world who know how to look after women and birthing people and families after they've had a baby, and we've lost our way overall. I mean, that's obviously a big generalization. But yeah, that opened my eyes, and it took me a couple of years of training and, learning and getting all the logistical stuff up and running before I actually left my kind of journalism job. But yeah, now I've been doing this work since the end of 2018.
Amazing. And you love it?
Yeah, I love it. I feel like it's so purposeful, and I feel like I don't mean this to sound arrogant, but it helps people. And I really just want to be doing something that helps people. And it brings together all the things that I personally love, which is food, community, babies. Like I love this stuff. Like this stuff lights me up. I love getting into the nitty gritty shit with people. I love talking about the deep stuff. And I just feel like in postpartum, you are so stripped back and raw, and everything is brought up. And I don't even just mean that first 6 weeks. I mean in like the first couple of years after you have a baby. And I just love witnessing people transform and being there for them and with them. It's very meaningful work. I love it.
Yeah, I get that. I really resonate with just I'm doing something that's really helps. And I also, like you, really love being and holding space and assisting through transformation. And I think, the transformation begins with that calling to conceive, or the conception, the dissolution of who we were starts. And then there's a massive shedding during birth for a lot of us. And obviously everyone does it in their own way. It's all unique unfolding, this tale. But like you said, I was just talking to a new family right now, and she's like, well, you kind of like burn up part of that maiden in the labor, but then the maiden continues to dissolve in those years postpartum. And this is, matrescence. This is the growth that's continually going on. I'm still going on in a very different phase, leaving my son in Sydney and reclaiming part of myself again in a new way is also part of the matrescence, because forever now I'll always be in relationship to my child. And mother is always a really strong part of my identity. So yeah, I agree. And having someone there to like hold that space for you and have those conversations just eases so much of the burden. Otherwise, we're carrying these conversations and they get projected into our relationships. And what else do you see? Like when people haven't got that support, what else happens? What happens we all live in a shitstorm at some point, but what does a really bad postpartum look like?
Okay, well, why don't I tell you about my postpartum? No, but I mean, generally on that, I see people feeling like there's something wrong with them. And thinking that they're broken, or that their baby's broken, or that they should be better, or that they're a crap mother, that they are doing a terrible, why has everyone else got it together and I don't have it together? I see that part of my role is to normalize the feelings that come along with a very transformative time that's both brutal and beautiful. And there's just so much going on. It's one of the most intense times in someone's life, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, my postpartum, talk about like a bad postpartum. I see people, I did all of the classic mistakes. So I moved just before having a baby. People love to move, renovate, or get a puppy.
Or start a business.
Start a business. I moved home from America to a new area where I didn't have a GP. I didn't have a support network. I didn't know I wasn't far from my friends or anything, but it was just a different community. I thought that I would be fine. So I didn't think that I would need a doula. I didn't even really know what postpartum meant, but I thought I'd be fine with birth because I'd done the work. I am a, type A, pride myself on like, do the hard yards and you'll get results kind of thing. That had always worked for me in the past. Studied like the good girl that I am and thought I'd be fine. Didn't do any prep for postpartum, assumed that my family would be there for me in the way that I needed, assumed that friends would be there in the way that I needed, didn't have any other kind of mothers around me, and had a traumatic intervention, heavy induced birth with my daughter, where I felt coerced and bullied, and came out of that with, some actual, episiotomy stitches and feeling physically pretty crappy, but mentally just going, what the hell was that? What went on? So dealing with the kind of shock and trauma of that, as well as with a newborn who, she was a pretty unsettled newborn who would spend her evenings, classic kind of evenings crying. I didn't know what was going on. Why couldn't I just put her down in her bassinet? And why wouldn't she sleep? And why did she only want to sleep on me? And God, she only just fed an hour ago. What, is there something wrong with my milk? And my mum saying weird stuff to me about, oh, just breastfeed 10 minutes and 10 minutes and she'll be fine, and put her down and leave her for 4 hours, like just terrible advice, no emotional support in the way that I needed it. Just all the things now that I go, I was just not aware, and I was not properly set up. And I ended up having postnatal anxiety, which, of course I did, because it was just
you're doubting yourself all the time as well, right?
Yeah,
and you were
completely
induced. And I think I just want to flag that for when syntocinon is utilised as an induction, there's a 32 to 36% increase in postnatal anxiety and depression as well.
Yes.
It's very important that women know that.
I did not know. And I knew that I did not want to be induced. I knew that. But what I didn't know was when the obstetrician, who I'd only met once before, pulled out your baby could be stillborn, that I needed to arm myself with some evidence, which I later found out the risk factor was something like 0.03% or something ridiculous. But yeah, so I think that postpartum, I never want to know anyone who's gone through that again. And I think that informs a lot of my work, is just making sure that people don't go through what I went through and what I've heard so many stories about. I hear so many stories about women who were, handing out hot lunches to the people who came to visit them, and, who were given shocking advice that ended their breastfeeding journey earlier than they wanted it to. Honestly, I just hear so many horrific stories. And I also hear about the more insidious stuff, which is this bounce back culture which we have, where we're all about quick, get back to normal life as quickly as possible. And that's a kind of badge of honor. Get back into your jeans, get your sleep back, get your baby into a routine, get back to coffee shops, get back to the gym. And it's like, whoa, let's just have a little minute for honoring
Yeah.
what we have gone through.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's right.
what I
Culture's
see.
shouting at women to bounce back, has been telling us, that we love women who choose to be mothers, but they're not sacred and they're not honorable and they're not worthy of like any pay or any kind of validity. It's just that thing that you do as, a provider. And we know through COVID, like how much more work mothers are doing. And we also know the very heartbreaking fact that the most common cause of death for a newborn mum is suicide.
Yes.
And that just, it gives me goosebumps all over to think about the isolation and the lack of support and the lack of education that we have in our culture. So I think, what you're doing, what I'm doing, what this conversation hopefully is doing is spreading more awareness. And one thing that really came to mind, and I think it's really helpful to hear about like when things look bad, what it looks like, it can just show you, how you could go if you don't prepare. But one of the things I was thinking of is like education is a really important thing for the pregnant woman to start to realize how she might like to do things. And then the doula, just to be really clear for people, is not someone coming in and telling you how to breastfeed. It's not someone telling you how to look after your house or, telling you need to sleep now. They're facilitating your wisdom and your intuition and your way of parenting and feeding what you want. And I think that's a really important thing that we're building up. We're allowing women to rise through this time and thrive.
I couldn't agree more. It is not about externalizing the expertise to a doula, to an obstetrician, to a midwife, whoever, to your mum. I see the doula's role as helping you get confident and comfortable in your new role. The postpartum doula anyway. It's about asking particular questions. It's about, holding space. It's about having those conversations, but it is never, ever about being like, well, it should be like this or it should be like that, because how many shoulds do we all get all the time? Like, I would never want to be adding to that. It's for me, I work with so many, and I work with people who do things so differently. People who have various different choices about various different things, and that's okay. That's their choice, and as long as they feel supported and comfortable in that, then that's what matters.
Absolutely. So to the pregnant women out there, in the ideal, like what would you love all pregnant women and families to be doing in their pregnancy to have the best postpartum?
Okay, where do I start? I think listening to conversations about postpartum, educating about postpartum, normalizing about postpartum, so you kind of have an idea of what to expect. You can never fully prepare 100% for what's coming your way, but you can have an understanding of what it's been like for other people. That's where, I feel like podcasts can be fantastic. You can read, there's so many books now out there on postpartum, and really kind of get out of the mindset that, okay, I'm preparing for the birth. You're preparing for the birth and for the birth of yourself. And that doesn't necessarily happen just, on the day of labor and delivery. Like, that is an ongoing process. And I think getting that understanding is a great place to start. Then I think it's about having the awareness around what you need and what you need for your family, whatever that looks like. So everyone's circumstances are different, and you just need to have a think about, what do I need that's going to make me feel comfortable and at peace? That might mean having a mobile massage person come over. It might mean having a really strong boundary with someone in your family who, presses your buttons. It might be having a neighbor being able to walk your dog. It might look very different to your circumstance, but it's thinking about what's going to make your life easy, what's going to allow you to rest, what's going to give you 6 weeks of the easiest, simplest life you can imagine, it just revolves around you resting, you learning about your baby, you feeding your baby, and you healing, which usually involves feeding yourself. So what needs to happen for that period of time to be as peaceful as possible? I do postpartum planning sessions as a standalone thing where, I actually nut that out with people, but you don't have to do that. You can just, you can write lists, you can talk to your partner, you can talk to friends.
But I'm just going to say, as you were sharing that, asking someone to walk your dog, setting a boundary with a family member, they're not frigging easy things to do when you are pumped full of oxytocin and estrogen, the two adaptability hormones, and I'm here to make peace and harmony for everybody in my family and close vicinity. And, as strong, career women and who've been brought up in the patriarchy, who know how to be as yang as we hopefully do yin, or maybe we're a bit more yang, I can set goals and achieve, make the list and I will do this. That's not an easy thing to do. And so this is coaching. You're really coaching people into a new set of beliefs, a new level of worthiness. And even the mobile massage, that has been so important for so many of the mums. You can have the perfect birth, but then your nervous system is so sensitive with the tiniest bit of sleep deprivation that then when you close your eyes, you can't rest. And so, being creatively solving those problems with a doula is so helpful, because then you have to deal with am I worthy of spending that money and making that time and inconveniencing my partner to babysit, which is not babysitting, it's just being a partner. But, this is the way culture sees it. And I know mums that, they need a 30-minute massage down at icebergs, every 3 days, just for a few weeks until that nervous system settles. And then you're sane.
Yes, it's very true. I think a doula can really help. I sort of think of myself as a coach, a concierge, and a cheerleader.
Nice. So say that again: coach,
concierge, cheerleader, and then
a chef,
and a confidant, and a chef.
A confidant. Yeah, that's five C's. I love that.
And also, I think doulas can help legitimize those needs. When you say to a partner, I really need to book in an hour's massage, that's it. I know I'm talking about my partner. He'll be like, really? Do you really? And I'm like, now I'm like, yeah, you fucking believe I shouldn't say it, but
no, say the F word. We're doulas. We say the F word, yeah.
But if a doula says to a partner, and I like to do, so when I have a client and we do a prenatal planning session, the partner's usually there, and I'm like, this is what she has told, listen to what she's saying she needs. Are we going to make that easy for her? You and I, we're a team, we're going to be helping. But often a doula can really just be that kind of, what's the word? Middleman. That's not quite the right word, but person who helps legitimize those needs. And yes, it is really hard to ask for help. Asking for help and surrendering at the same time. It's two sides of the same coin, and they're both incredibly hard to do in this culture. I still struggle. But there are ways around that, I like to help people set up meal trains, and often I will tell them, well, I'll either set it up for you or get your best friend to set it up for you. That way you don't have to ask, the 20 people on your meal train. It's someone else doing the asking for you. And you're so right. When someone's in a very oxytocin heavy state, which we want to protect that oxytocin, we don't want them thinking about, oh God, now I've got to have this awkward conversation, which is partly why thinking about this stuff in pregnancy and having those conversations in pregnancy and setting those boundaries in pregnancy is so important. Sending out the email to people who might want to come and visit and say, this is how it's going to be. We're not having visitors. in those words, but we've chosen not to have visitors for the first 2 weeks. We are so excited for you to meet the baby. In the meantime, if you'd like to drop a meal over, here's the link to our meal train. Just having those things happen in pregnancy, dealing with the tricky stuff before postpartum, because you don't want to be having any kind of stress and negativity in your postpartum any more than, it might just arise.
Or in those last weeks leading up to birth as well.
Yes.
So deal with it in your second trimester is probably an optimal time.
Yeah, you want to protect that bubble and all of that beautiful energy that,
And that brings, as when people do she births and when they do the postpartum planning and they get their team into place, like you see them just drop into their bodies and land. You even see it during the she births course, like how powerful knowledge can be, how an education, which is simply like an education in what we know we have always had and we always need. So it's just like locks in, it's a remembering, because we always have to remember that the majority of stresses in our lives now as mothers, as partners, as birthing people is really coming from the fact that we no longer live in a village.
Yes. I mean, that's it. That's it in a nutshell. Back in the day, I've read research that showed that back in the day when you had a baby, there'd be 17 other pairs of hands.
Wow.
17, aunties and grandmas and cousins, people who would not be up making dinner. You would not be taking, as I saw a woman at my daughter's dance class, 1 week postpartum, taking her 2.5-year-old to dance class. I just wanted to bundle her up, put her in bed,
wrap her in a cocoon.
Yeah, because you just would have had so much more help. It just would have been the norm. You would have had probably other women breastfeeding your baby for you and with you. It wouldn't. You wouldn't have had to do it alone. And I think the key thing to remember is you don't have to do it alone now. It is harder to re-village these days, but it's not impossible. And so much of that can happen in pregnancy, and making those connections through beautiful education courses like She Births, where you meet people who are at that same stage of life, who have a similar, value system. I just I really wish that I'd done that first time around, and I didn't have it. And
And now for a quick break. She Births is where science and nature come together. As the only scientifically verified birth education course in the world, we can help you understand nature's intelligent design for birth while learning the most evidence-based birthing skills. We know that by getting to know yourself and by educating your team well now, you will be able to manage more of the challenges ahead with ease and grace. From our free pregnancy guide to our world-class birth education, to our post-birth Soul Mama circles, you can be supported to find the mother within you. Our doula service is bespoke and provides only the best-in-class trained birth support to She Births families. Over 60% of our mums choose a doula in their birthing room, and we know that they will have the best care, best pain relief, and evidence-based support for their empowerment. Go to shebirths.com/doula, DOULA, and book a free 15-minute consultation today to discuss your needs. I just on that topic, a few weeks ago, I'm up here in Mullumbimby now for most of my time and come back to Sydney to teach as well as teach up here. But I went and facilitated a postpartum group at Mullumbimby Comprehensive Health Centre, a fantastic centre. A mum runs it, one of our doulas. She's pregnant with her 5th. I don't know how she does everything that she does, but I suppose by the time you're on the 5th, the other 4 are looking after the 5th. Like that. She's done such a good job of raising these kids. They're all so divine. And I said, well, let's start with the first topic of the She Births Soul Mama circle. Let's talk about self-care. And what was really interesting was these women had been meeting up for weeks. And yet none of them had created an initiative, because they didn't yet feel comfortable, to look after each other's children, even down at the beach, so that they could have a swim. So, that's so interesting. And that just reiterated for me how important the structure and the facilitation of a soul mama circle is. Like, unless you're all extroverty and you're quite informed, you're not going to do that. And I was like, and that is why I will be starting the Soul Mama circles up here, even though there's a lot of a sort of village atmosphere here, still there is not that clear structure of support and giving permission to care for each other in that way. The second thing that really fascinated me was half of the group were Asian women, Filipino and Thai. And the topic of self-care, for them was completely foreign. They all had working partners. Everyone, of course, every woman felt incredibly guilty to ask for self-care. Time out was often the number one self-care, just to go and have a shower on your own, or go to the beach, or whatever it is, or have 10 minutes to meditate or something like that. But because these women had not experienced it in their culture at all, because I said, I bet your mum was raising you with her grandparents and aunties around. They're like, yeah, that's right. There was always they all had about 8 kids, but there was always aunties and cousins and grandparents around. And in a lot of, like we were just talking about Hong Kong before, when I lived there, grandparents look after the children, So we're pretty attached to it all being us doing it. And I think we should start to soften around that as well.
Oh, 100%. I mean, the nuclear family setup is just so wrong on so many levels. And I think it takes a bit of courage to see ways that it can be different and actually act to get them. Like, it is scary. I just want to acknowledge and have compassion for it just being new and different and scary, to say, hey, why don't we set up a WhatsApp group, and hey, would you mind babysitting my kid and I'll babysit your, that's new and different and uncomfortable, but change is uncomfortable. That's something that I've really learned, and I think you just have to get uncomfortable. I just this week, I love to take meals to people who I know are having a bit of a shit time or a rough week, or a kid in hospital, whatever's going on. I will try and make food for them and take it to them. And someone offered to bring me some dinner this week, and my son was in hospital last week and got the cookie launch, and it's so full on. And I wanted to say, no, don't worry, I'm fine. And I had to have a little intervention with myself and be like, you need to practice what you preach and say yes, just say yes. And it was so uncomfortable, I can't even tell you, but I did it, and it was lovely. And we got a beautiful curry last night dropped on our doorstep, and it was amazing. And it's that kind of discomfort that shifts the needle, just a little bit, and that then makes other people feel more comfortable to ask for help. So yeah, I love having these conversations and seeing these little shifts happen, even in tiny, tiny ways.
But I love the way you explain that. It's just so perfect. The discomfort of change, shifting the needle a little bit, the power of these conversations. That shifting the needle a little bit is a friggin' big bit, in our culture and in our world as caring, adaptive, oxytocin, estrogen-driven mothers. You're actually kind of almost going against the biology of the experience. So, and that's, there's nothing wrong with that potentially. It's just simply what we need to do, and it's part of our evolution. And I suppose that's why I love, she births as well, like couples understanding, partners understanding what's going on inside the woman's biology.
So important.
Yeah. So important. So that they can just not think of this as crazy, or, partners, it's so characterized in media, but so are mothers, and it's not good enough.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's not, but I really feel like things are shifting. And, my
Yeah.
dad was explaining to me that he wasn't even allowed to have any time off when I was born. Now, nothing. Like, I still don't think it's enough that partners only get 2 weeks. It's pathetic.
It is.
But, it is shifting, and partners are my husband, the youngest of 4, born to Greek parents. His father did not change a single nappy for
No.
children,
Yeah.
and now he is like the most hands-on father, in part because he really wants to be, and in part because he better believe he's got to be if he wants to be
Married to you. Okay.
Yeah.
Totally.
But, it is shifting. It's shifting, and I do have a lot of hope for the next generation. But yeah, at the same time, there's also still so much noise out there, and we just got to do our little bit to change that.
Totally. One other thing that was really interesting that came up I also gave a talk recently at the Earth to Birth as a workshop about the divine feminine, and we were talking about self-care in that as well and all of that. But one of the things that came up in both the self-care and the, embracing our feminine was allowing our partners to do some parenting. Oh my God, it's so easy in our culture, in our own minds, and we have to do a little intervention, like you said, or hit the pause button when you find yourself saying things like, oh, I'll do it, I'll be faster. I can do it quicker than you.
Yeah. I learned this the really hard way when I had like a full-on marriage crisis, because I was like, I didn't sign up for this. I don't want to be household manager. I don't want to be the one who has to have all the mental load. What is going on? And I realized I was a massive part of the problem. I was not letting my husband find his way.
Yeah.
He would do something the way I didn't like it done, and I'd be like, oh, fine, I'll just do it. Or, I would not give him the opportunity. I would not delegate. I would not trust that eventually he would get it. And I think, we're so used to having to fend for ourselves and having to do things for ourselves that it can be hard to let go of that, of our really, hard-won independence. But I think we have to, because when it comes to raising kids, it's bad enough if it's just a nuclear family, but if it's only one person, like, I take my hat off to single parents out there, because my God, I just don't even know how it happens. But yeah, like, if you've got a partner there, you've got to utilize them, and that means in postpartum as well. I think partners in postpartum can be a fantastic gatekeeper for some of those boundaries, so that you're not having those awkward conversations with your mother-in-law. That's their job. And it's their job to kick out a visitor who's stayed for longer than 45 minutes. And it's, it doesn't have to all be on you. You're never alone, but it does require some effort or maybe a reframing of how you're doing things, and accepting help and asking for help.
Oh my God, 45 minutes for a visitor postpartum would just kill me. That's like ages.
I know.
And then they come and they don't bring food. They don't bring food, and then they leave all their dishes, and all they want to do is like hold the baby, and it's not appropriate. And we even like put signs on our front door saying, shush, baby sleeping, or please don't not come back later. People still knocking. People still wanting to come in. They can't help themselves.
I know. And like, who doesn't love a baby? I get it. But we've forgotten about how we need to look after mothers after they've given birth. I mean, to have a conversation for more than 5 minutes when you're in that newborn mother state is too much. And, like you said, we should not be passing babies around. That's just not optimal. And I mean, I look back to how I had people coming over first time around, and I was making them cups of tea, and I just cringed. I had like friends of my husband's coming around 10 days postpartum while I was trying to latch a baby, and feeling awkward with, these men that I barely knew. Like, honestly, it's just, but second time round, don't you worry. I did things a
whole lot better.
Estrangement. Yeah.
Well, why don't we talk about some of the best food to eat? Like, what do you think is because I love your food, and it's not that high-end eating. It's not just pure comfort. It's medicinal kind of home-style cooking. Is that how you would describe what you make?
Yeah, absolutely. So on food, I think this is one thing we can control, which, there's a lot of things we can't control about postpartum, and we have to kind of accept that. But we can fill our freezer. We can set up a meal train. We can get our favorite recipes. We can get our pantry stocked. And I really look to how traditional cultures do postpartum food and how they use functional foods. Like, that's what I love, is that all the food that, most of the food that traditional cultures make for women who've just given birth is really functional.
What does that mean, functional food?
There's a function to it. So there's things like, giving a woman pate after she's given birth, organ meats. Why do that? Well, it's, ounce for ounce, the most nutrient dense food on the planet, most iron packed food you've got. You've got all these vitamins that you need after birth. Why do people give them soup? Why do we give people bone broth and soup which has got, bones being cooked in it, or things like ossobuco or stews? Glycine, collagen to repair the tissues. Like, they are very targeted. It's not something that, scientists back in, 1472 decided that they were because of glycine, but we have this innate knowledge of that's what we need to give people.
Wait. Just before we keep going with the food, can we just say that birth and postpartum wisdom came before there was fucking evidence base? She births came before the evidence base. I just want to say that because it just riles me up. We got to start with the innate traditions and wisdom first.
I love evidence. I love things that are evidence backed, but we also just need to remember, I think, and now we have this culture of, you bring some lasagna after you've had a baby. That's actually not the best thing to feed a newborn mother. The best things are soupy, stewy, sweet, fatty. And I'm not talking like a donut. I'm talking about like a beautiful spiced rice pudding with a dollop of ghee. I'm talking, as a hot cacao drink with ashwagandha and reishi, to really help regulate the nervous system. I'm talking about like a beautiful chicken liver pate with spices and ghee, like lashings and lashings of ghee. Like, that stuff is just really purposeful, and it's delicious. I mean, there's no point in having like food that's functional if it's not also delicious, because part of what raises our oxytocin levels is yummy food. And we want to make sure that we are actually enjoying that food. Like, I would never want to push, like, if someone was like, I don't know, coconut beef curry is really not my bag, be like, that's fine. Like, it might be the very best thing you could possibly eat right now, but I am not pushing that on you if that's not what you like. And I also think, as much as I love food that's really optimal, nutritional, all that, I do think there's a place for, if you love, I don't know, like a mac and cheese, and if that makes you feel really good because you have beautiful memories tied up in that, have the mac and cheese. Like, you don't need to feel like you've got to eat perfectly after you've had a baby. That's not what it's about. It's about eating food that makes you feel nourished and nurtured and comforted. And so often that's food that's warm and warming. We don't want to be eating like cold smoothies and raw salads. That's not good for our digestion after we've had a baby. It's about, you want food that's like a warm hug. If you could just, that basically sums it up. And that will look different for everyone. But yeah, like, I mean, even things like, I did so much stuff in my freezer. I've got a freezer tour on my Instagram if anyone wants to look. But like, I did things like stuffed dates with peanut butter spiked with like dark chocolate, and I did things like, oh my God. I just did so much. Like, I went a bit crazy. I had 2 freezers full, and I don't regret a single thing. We didn't cook the first 3 months after having my second child. Yeah, it was great. We lived out of the freezer, and we also had a meal train for a month, which was it was honestly the best thing. I highly, if anyone could give their future selves a postpartum gift, it would be that meal train and freezer full of food.
And then, keep the freezer pumping or turn it into an ice bath, like to use in like a few years, like chuck it on its side.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wim Hof your way, through early motherhood.
Whatever. But it's like, yeah, I love that idea. 3 months. I reckon that's almost a record. I can't think of anyone that's ever done it that long. That's really, because think of all the hours of time. If you didn't have social media and you didn't have to cook food, you probably got 5 hours in the day.
Right.
You've got for being with your child, looking at your boobs, understanding.
Or having a bath, doing all
falling
of
in love. Yeah.
And not getting to 5 o'clock going, oh my gosh, I've got a cranky baby. What's for dinner? That it was just amazing. And I mean, we didn't even do many groceries. We might pick up, bread and milk and fruit sort of thing. But we even had people who were like, because I've trained all of my friends now, they'd be like, I'm just about to pop over with your meal for tonight. Can I pick up anything from the shops for you? Do you need anything from the chemist?
That's what I do with all of our friends, as well. So important. Yeah, the chemist one is a good one to put in as well, actually. That's
because always
the supermarket or the chemist, more pads or whatever. Absolutely, I love that. Now, should we talk about birth in our last little bits of time together? The unpacking, the debriefing birth. You did She Births online for your second, and you made a lot of different choices for your second labour. Do you feel like you have processed your births?
I think it's like an onion and I'm constantly unpeeling the layers, I feel like I've gone through so many different stages processing the birth. I mean, I still think I'm processing my first birth.
Yes, thank you.
I recently just went back to, virtually back to do a talk to the midwives at the hospital where I birthed my daughter, which was a real head fuck, honestly, but it was amazing, about how they can, help look after women in postpartum, that immediate postpartum and when they go home. And I still have feelings around, my daughter's birth. And for my son, I came out of it. I had an incredible home birth, which was very powerful, very intense. My midwife and doula didn't make it in time. And my mother ended up being there. And I definitely didn't want my mother in my birth space. That was a big thing that I'd worked through. I'd had therapy around my first birth, and I'd done EMDR for birth trauma. I'd, done all of these things. And one of the big things was no energy from my mother in the birth space. Wow. And then she ended up alongside my husband catching the baby, in our bathroom. So I don't know what that means. So I went through this incredible high, incredible bliss, beautiful postpartum. The postpartum was just incredibly healing. And then I had a real thing around 4 months postpartum where I was like, hang on, no, I'm really pissed off about how some things unfolded. And I got ragey as fuck. And I had to go back to my counsellor and talk to her about all of that stuff and, what was going on. And I think I'm now at a place where I can see the bigger picture, and I don't have that sort of anger anymore. I have the acceptance that things kind of unfolded beautifully, not perfectly, but what do I need things to be perfect for? This sort of pressure that I had on myself to do things right, the second time. And also there's lessons for me in birth. I mean, there's always lessons in birth, aren't there?
Yeah. Totally.
But yes, I'm rambling now, but this is
I love what you're saying. I think it's really helpful. I mean, your mum catching a baby is like the greatest cosmic joke. I'm just going to say,
totally. I mean, what is that? What is that?
Only you know, babe. Only you know.
Maybe I'm still working that out.
And that's cool. And that's a beautiful thing. What a great thing to have a lifetime. It's like my son is now covered in tattoos. I see you've got tattoos too. And I'm like, I'm bribing him all the time. And I'm like, what does that one even mean? And he's like, I don't know. I got the rest of my life to work it out.
Well, I have 2 tattoos, which are for both of my children. So I've got one which is a pearl. Margot, my daughter, Margot means pearl. And I got a big camellia here because the camellias were out in full blossom when I was very heavily pregnant, and I just would walk the streets. I got to 42 weeks before I had my son, and those last few weeks I was just heavily pregnant and dealing with lots of camellias. My AirPods are about to die.
Okay, cool. That's good. We got you.
Just got a little message.
Thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom. But
thank you for having me.
Let's maybe do one final question. What would you say to the pregnant families out there and the caregivers that are listening to this podcast? Is there anything you want to say to them?
I want to say that you are more powerful than you know. You need to just have the conversations. There are things that you can do to have a really beautiful postpartum. And then there's a lot of that you're just going to have to let go of. But let's focus on what you can do. And there's so much that you can do to make things easier for yourself.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you, darling. You're so wonderful.
Much.
I wish you were my postpartum doula. Actually, I could still employ you as my postpartum doula and just like snuggle. You've got like that maternal matriarchal energy. Like I just want to snuggle into your chest there.
Come snuggle into my bosom.
Yes, you've got the maternal archetype just oozing out of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for everything that you do. And go and pack some more cookies.
Thank you for everything you do. You're a huge inspiration to me, and She Birth's made a massive world of difference for my second birth, my very healing, powerful birth and postpartum. So I love everything that you do and put out there.
Thank you, my love. Thank you. Have a beautiful afternoon and a chilled weekend.
You too. You too.
Lots of love. See ya.
Bye.
I'm Nadine Richardson, and you've been listening to the She Births Show. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. We'd love to know what you would like to hear more of. You can find me and my team of amazing doulas and educators at shebirths.com and our awesome community on Instagram and Facebook. Within any good app store, you can download our free pregnancy guide via She Births, 2 separate words and plural, as well as access a range of online courses. Remember, when it comes to having a better birth, an easier transition into parenthood, your education is your empowerment. Don't forget to check out the catalogue of previous podcasts, and thank you for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed the show.